All right, we're going to talk about buy before you sell, trade in today, and we're going to keep this a 3 to 5 minute video on how to pitch this quickly to customers and not overcomplicate it to help you with your conversion to get people to buy in. Now, I think it's important to remember that when we're discussing trade in, this is a lot more complex than just someone calling us to say, I'm ready to sell my house. I'm moving to, Tennessee. This is how much I want to sell for, and this is my timeline. Trade-in is much more complex, and it is really easy to get a customer very confused. Once they're confused, they have trouble buying into you. It just complicates the whole message. But when it's communicated properly, there's nothing more powerful to someone that needs to sell and buy at the same time to change dramatically how they move. So one quick note is, giving someone the ability to buy before you sell is one of the, one of the greatest challenges of the marketplace for someone that already owns a home is, how do I buy and sell at the same time? What are the time frames? If they have kids and dogs and all kinds of other stuff, it makes it very complex for them, and they just don't know how to execute it. So if we come in and we say, I can help you buy your next home first. Remember, everybody who already owns a home that wants to buy another one, all they really care about is, once they make that decision, they just care about what's the next house. They get very excited about seeing the next house and wanting to, pretend, let's say, or they want to fantasize about where they're going to live next. So if we can help them get approved to buy first, and everything in the process starts when they actually buy their next house, that changes everything. So when we're talking to customers on the phone, because this all starts when they're leads, the easiest script for me that I use is, well, we have quite a few different options for clients when they're considering selling and buying at the same time. I can offer you a way to buy your next home first with zero risk that you're going to get stuck with multiple mortgage payments. There's no interest, there's no added fees. So in theory, I can help you buy your next home first. Once you find your next home, that's when everything starts. Once you buy your next home, we can move you into that home, and then we can get you out of your old home, and we can start preparing it so we can maximize the value, right? Whether that means we're going to do repairs for you or your house is ready to go, this just simplifies all the showings and getting you where you want to go. One of the most important messages that you need to get across to clients is, like, when we're approved to use this program, we can write non-contingent offers. So that means that we're going to save usually 2 to 5% on the purchase because we're not having to write contingent offers. In the last 3 to 5 years, contingent offers without your house listed for sale or the client's house listed for sale are almost guaranteed to get rejected. So if we're trying to go out and write contingent offers without a home up for sale yet, or better yet, pending, it's a 90% chance they're not going to win a house, and it's a very discouraging process. So you need to communicate that to the clients, right? It's very important that they understand, if you think you're going to go write offers, whether it's locally or out of state, contingent on you getting your house ready to list and sell, you're never going to win a house. The alternative to that would be, if we're not using buy before you sell, we're going to get your house ready to sell now, put it up for sale, get a buyer, get an offer, and then we're going to negotiate with that offer that they're going to wait for us to go out and find a home. The challenge with that is we don't know if the right house is going to come up at the right time while we have a buyer, and you start to feel a lot of pressure that you should buy a house that maybe doesn't fit exactly what you want. So if instead of doing that, why would we not just get approved for buy before you sell? So we just lay and wait and hunt and go hunt properties until you find that right property. And once you find that perfect home, you don't have to make any sacrifices. we can make the offer. So that's a good way to get buy-in from customers before you're at your listing appointment to actually get the listing appointment. Once we're at the listing appointment, this is really important because there's no way for you to know. The buyer must get approved for buy before you sell. So there's no way on your initial listing appointment you can say you're approved for buy before you sell and here's how much money I can get you access to. There's a few good rules of thumb that you can use on this initial appointment to know and communicate to the seller if they're a good candidate. In a nutshell, you need to tell them the buy before you sell program is similar to a home equity line of credit. So let's say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, we think that you have, based on our estimated sales price, you're going to want to estimate the sales price for them based on the condition. We think that you're going to have around $500,000 in equity right now, right? Based on a conservative estimation. Well, a home equity line of credit would not give you all of your equity or access to all of your equity because unfortunately, they don't want you to be upside down in your house if your house is not worth what we think it is. So the buy before you sell program is similar to that. And in a nutshell, we can usually get you between 70 and 80% of your equity that you have access to up front once you're approved to make your down payment. So let's say we have $500,000 in equity, but I can get you $300,000 of that to use as a down payment on your replacement home. And on that loan, it's really a loan, a short-term loan. There's no interest and there's no monthly payments on the $300,000. So Mr. and Mrs. Seller, if we're looking at buying a $600,000 home and we're downsizing, I can get you $300,000 now within 3 or 4 days. I can get you approved. We can get the $300,000, and then we can make our offer non-contingent with $300,000 down and a $300,000 mortgage, and boom. Once you move into the new house, the process starts. We can get you out of your house. We can start getting the house ready, and then we can maximize the value of the current home to make sure that it sells for the highest possible price. So estimating that down payment loan is super important because it shares with the client how much money they can access. They'll oftentimes ask, well, what happens to the other 30% of my equity or 25% of my equity? The best way to explain that to them is we would never want you to be upside down once you buy your new home. And if we're wrong and the home doesn't sell for what we thought, we have a little wiggle room, right? Meaning if we have to reduce our price or negotiate with buyers, we have the equity to do that. So if we got access to 75% of our equity, around 10 to 15% of your leftover equity is left in your property, so you have some wiggle room just in case we don't get what we thought. That's super important. I want to protect you. I want to make sure that you're not upside down when you move. So 10 to 15% of the 25% is just what I would call a buffer in the event we don't get offers we thought. The other 10% is left in the house so you can pay all of your costs associated with selling. So commissions, closing costs, loan fees, because just like if you bought your home with a traditional mortgage, the Buy Before You Sell program has a loan fee that's comparable to a traditional mortgage. That's why we recommend it, because it's so cheap. So any of the equity that's left in the house is left there so you can afford to pay your fees, cost of sale, and then a buffer. Let's say we thought the house was worth $600. We can get you access to $300 of that equity, and you bought a home for $600. After you moved, we got the house ready, maximized the sale price, and let's say we sold it for $600. Everything worked out perfect, right? Once we sell, you would pay your real estate fees, your closing costs, any costs you've associated, and then the balance of all of your equity goes to you. So you got $300,000 of your equity, 75%. Once we sell and we close everything out, the balance of your equity comes back to you. You're issued a payment. one of the common questions that we'll get when we're presenting this to clients is, well, yeah, what if my house doesn't sell, right? And so built into the Buy Before You Sell program is a guaranteed offer, a cash offer that engages at the 90th day. So everything that the program is built on, once they get approved, they will get a breakdown of every cost, basically, and why they're not getting access to their entire equity. And let's say they had 25% equity left in the house, there's going to be a breakdown of where that 25% is going. So let's say they got $300,000 in equity, but then the market tanked after they moved and we could not sell the home. And ultimately, we thought it was worth $600 based on their equity payment, their buyout, let's say, when they moved, they got access to $300 of that equity. Well, that really is like an offer price, as if they sold their home not at $600, but at like $495, right? So in theory, the lowest possible risk to the seller, right? The worst case scenario is that they pre-sold their home at $495 and they got $300K of their equity. So there's already an offer built into the program that if it's not sold within 90 days, HomeLight will buy the home at the lowest price based on their down payment loan that they got up front. That does not mean, though, that we've sold the home and that's it. It just means that they close on their old home so they can pay back their down payment loan on their new home, and we continue to try to sell the house. Now, if we did sell the house, let's say on day 120, and it sold for more than $490, any balance that the home sold for over what they already received goes back to the seller. It really is a huge win-win. So if you communicate to the sellers that this creates that certainty, right? That you're not going to get stuck with two homes. Now, no one ever wants to sell their home at a discounted rate. I understand that. Of the 400 people I've moved with Buy Before You Sell, we've never had that happen. You need to communicate that to them. We've never had anybody walk away with the lowest amount, but it's a guarantee there just in case the market just tanks and no one's buying homes. If that happened, let's say we weren't using Buy Before You Sell, we were selling the traditional way. If that was going to happen, that's going to happen anyways, and we're just going to be stuck on the market in a traditional sale, selling the home at the same price. So just because you use Buy Before You Sell doesn't mean that you would be in the same scenario in both instances. It's just if you're using Buy Before You Sell, you are guaranteeing you're selling your home, and you're not going to get stuck in that downturn of a market and losing money. So it's really a win-win. So in a nutshell on that appointment, there's a few things you want to do to get buy-in to take the next step to get them approved for trade-in. Number one, we can access 70 to 80% of their equity. If they have enough equity in that 70 to 80% to buy their next house with a down payment, based on your estimation, they're a go. Number two, you want to roughly explain how the 25% of the leftover equity is distributed, because if you don't, they're going to be very confused and wonder, why am I not getting all my equity and what happens to it? So explaining that scenario to them is really important. Number three, explaining the guarantee. Basically, once they buy the new home, they're not going to get stuck with two homes, and kind of explaining how that goes is good. At the end of the appointment, you want to bring them back to this really important component. I don't care if we use trade-in or Buy Before You Sell. It doesn't matter to me. We're going to help you buy traditionally. We can list, we can write contingent. It doesn't matter. Whatever is best for you. In our experience, if you have enough equity, buying before you sell is absolutely the best way. On average, our clients will walk away, even after paying fees and closing costs and all of that, they'll usually walk away with about 10% more money in the end if we can buy first. That's not even counting all of the, all the stress we save and getting the exact right house we want, timing the move at exactly when we want. All that stuff is like free in the end. And so there's a few key points you want to close that meeting with. Number one if we use buy before you sell, it will cut the time frame of the entire move in half. Usually it's about 50% faster because once we're approved, we can go make our offers and we're about 30, 60, 90 days from actually closing both transactions. Number two, we save 2 to 5% on the purchase by making a non-contingent offer. That's really important. Number three, we usually net between 5 and 10% more on the house that they're selling because when we can get them out and we can freshen it up, we can fully stage it, and then we have access to unlimited showings. Very important, right? And so on average, between the purchase and the sale, by increasing the value and decreasing the purchase price, on average, we're going to net about 10% more, which fully covers their real estate fees. This is really important.